welcome back to the Unfinished Podcast. I'm your host, Tracie, and listen, I just want to pause and say thank you. The love, the feedback, the messages about last week's testimony episode, I have truly been moved. I was nervous about releasing that episode because I felt like so much of what I went through, I kept to myself. And I just put it all out there. I didn't hold back because I didn't want to water down the glory of God and what he did in my life. So to receive the response that I received, how it was relatable and put a lot of things in perspective for a lot of people. It encouraged others. It just filled me with so much joy because that's the point. That's what it's all about. It's not about me. It's not that he's willing to do it for me and not, the next person. It's just more so about showing and giving hope to another person by what God has done for you. Because sometimes you can feel like you're too far away. Like, yeah, he did it for you, but I'm too far. No, you're not. You're not too far. So again, I just want to say thank you guys for that. That was really, really heartwarming. And glory be to God in regards to all of it. But today we're talking about something that's quiet, but it's extremely powerful. And it's our mind, our thoughts, the silent conversations we have with ourselves. Listen, them silent conversations have the power to push you forward or hold you back. I'm telling you, them conversations be deadly. Have you ever listened to yourself? Like the conversations you truly have with yourself? Mm-mm. It's so I just I challenge you to spend one day to think about what you're thinking about, and you're gonna be like, Lord, I need you now. Cause the way I'm talking to myself is not like you. So yeah, I want to talk about our mind, our thoughts, the silent conversations we have. And if we're not careful, a lie is planted in our mind and can take root in our heart. And before we know it, we'll be living like it's true. When I tell you that is so prevalent in culture, believing a lie and living your life surrounded by this lie. I think one of the most powerful things God ever led me to do was unlearn. Like I had to unlearn narratives, unlearn the lies, unlearn what I thought made me worthy. And in the process of unlearning, of course, he created space in my heart for me to learn who he was and what he said about me. See, the mind is where the enemy wages war first. And I learned that firsthand. Because before he can attack my faith, he has to attack my thoughts. If he can shape the way I think, he can shape what I believe, how I believe, I said what I believe already. And if he can twist my beliefs, he can control how I behave. No, I said if he can twist my beliefs, he can control how I behave. If in my mind I have an idea and I want to pursue this idea, but he planted this thought that you too this to do that, or you too that to do that, or no one's gonna listen to this, or no one is gonna listen to that, then guess what? I'm gonna start believing those thoughts and I'm never gonna do the thing that God put in my heart. I'm never going to pursue that idea. I'm never going to go back to school. I'm never going to open myself up to actually trying to do this thing. All because of the thought or the idea that the enemy has planted in our mind. The Bible is so clear about this. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's Proverbs 23:7. I want you to go read that. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. In his heart. What you believe to be is true. That's what you are. And I question what are some beliefs or what are some things we believe about ourselves that maybe just not true? What if there was a lie that was planted or a seed of doubt, fear, and shame that was planted when you were young and you just kind of start believing that lie, but it's not true about you. Also, I think the word also tells us do not conform to the pattern of the world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. That's the strategy right there. I think once you're able to recognize or come in agreement with, okay, my mind is taunted. The way I think about myself, the way I think about others, what I believe to be true could possibly be a lie. So, Lord, in this time, I'm opening myself up to unlearn the ways I think I know you, the ways I think you have called me to live, or the lies that I believed about myself. I'm unlearning everything and I'm coming to you as a child. Show me how I am supposed to think. What am I supposed to think about? How am I supposed to think about this? What did you call me? How do you see me? One of the best piece of advice I got from a friend is I would tell her these thoughts. I would tell her how I was thinking, and she would ask me this question. She said, "Did that thought come from you?" She said, did God talk to you that way? Like, did that thought come from God?" And it always made me stop. And she would say, "God wouldn't talk to you like that. He wouldn't say those type of things to you." Don't get me wrong. I do believe God chastises those that he loves, but it's a way in which he does it, right? So captivity really starts in the mind. The enemy isn't always loud. Sometimes he just playing a whisper. You will never be enough. You always will be broken. God might do it for them, but not you. That last one, God would do it for them, but not me. Heavy on it. That was me. That was me. That almost make me emotional and want to start punching the air because get thee behind me for real. Seriously. And if we don't take these thought captives, it starts to feel like a truth. You start to believe that he actually will do it for others and won't do it for you. You'll start living your life out there. One of my anchor scriptures I feel like God has really been planting on my heart lately is 2 Corinthians 10:5. And it tells us to take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. But here's the thing. You can't make something obedient to what you don't know. It says in some verses it says the knowledge of God. But if you don't know the knowledge of God and you take a thought captive, what's going to happen with that thought? You have nothing to do with it. You're just going to take a thought. You're just going to basically put a spotlight on a thought, but not know how to combat it. So how do we take a captive thought if you don't know what the truth began with? You have to know the word of God. And this is not saying you just know the word of God like throwing out a verse and this and the third. Sometimes it takes intentionality. Sometimes it takes you to Google, what does God say about this? How did God talk to me? Or what do God feel about this? What makes this lie stand out? That's what gives you the authority to say, wait, no. That's not what God said about me. This thought didn't even come from God. I cast it down. I send it back to the sender. How about that? So I feel like this is where the transition happened. This is where it gets deep. The mind can influence the heart, and the heart is what God looks at, right? So that's why I love these two scriptures together. And hear me out. Search me, God, know my heart, test me, and know my anxious thoughts. That is Psalms 139:23. Now, Psalms 139 is literally one of my favorite Psalms. Read it in its entirety because after he tells God that, and after he, basically confess how God know his inner being, he goes into saying, where can he go? Where can he hide from God? If he's at the top of the mountain, God is there. Even if he's in the depth of hell, God is there also. So he's just like, not only do you know me, first he started with search me, then he started with you know me, and then he started with you will never leave, and then he ended with you will never leave me. Psalms 139, please go read it. But the second scripture that I also love is creating me a clean heart, oh God, and renew a right spirit within me. That's Psalms 51:10. Because sometimes the thoughts we never speak are or the thoughts we never, just verbally speak out are the ones shaping the version of ourselves we walk in every day. That I know that to be true because that's really half of my testimony. Honey, the way that I saw and thought about myself, I would live out that way. Not that I was like, because in my mind, I'm like this Debbie Downer, like I was so hard on myself, but I was seeking and searching for this validation because of the way I thought of myself. So, yeah, if we're not careful, our thoughts will start writing a story that God never authored. Girl, can you imagine you sitting here living a certain type of way? He's probably looking at you like, I never called you to live like that. You are tormented day in and day out. God forbid you post some on social media and it don't get the response that you desire for it to give. Now you're going down a rabbit hole. Actually, the picture wasn't that cute. I look like this. Let me take this down. Nobody likes me. Nobody want to support me. Girl, I'm telling you, the rabbit hole goes deep. It goes really, really deep. But I feel like it's easy to talk about this, but there's a few stories in the Bible that I want to bring up and talk about because I love a good Bible story, girl. And let me tell you something. You think we was going through? You look at some of them stories in the Bible, it's like, oh Lord, I see. Okay, let me get myself right on together. Okay, one of um one of the stories I want to talk about is Gideon. So Gideon at this time, the Israelites were being oppressed. They were basically they could not plant or grow any crops like out in the field or do anything without it being um without someone coming and just taking it from them. Like they was very weak. And remind you, Gideon is not a part of the generation where they saw God do all of these miraculous things. Gideon generations is up under those. Okay. So their faith is not as strong as the generation before them. But so God comes to Gideon. Remind you, Gideon is hiding in a wine press because he cannot um he cannot do whatever he was doing out in public. Please forgive me because I can't remember what he was doing, but I remember him hiding in a wine press. And if you go look up a wine press, it's kind of like, dang, but he was hiding in a wine press. And when God came to Gideon, first of all, Gideon, well, let me just tell you, when God came to Gideon, he called Gideon a mighty warrior. And Gideon could not receive that word because in his mind, he believed that he was the weakest, the least of the unlikely. He even responded, said, I'm no great warrior. Basically, like my clan is the weakest of them all. And when God called Gideon and told Gideon this, Gideon needed some really big miraculous signs to believe that this was actually an angel from God. God did not scorn Gideon because he didn't believe. God actually met Gideon there and gave him the signs. And it wasn't just one sign. Gideon asked for a few of them. I am Gideon. Like, Lord, please. I believe that you are powerful, but if you can just sit here and, I don't know, pull the curtain back, do something, blow a little wind, little something. Let me know that this is really you. That's really how I be. Gideon for real. He's in if you want to read the story about Gideon, he's in Judges chapter 6. I love Gideon's story because I can relate to him so much. You feel like you are not what God called you to be. Like, I'm too weak for that. I'm too this. I'm too that. I came from a family like this. I come from this. I didn't have this growing up. I didn't have that growing up. And God is saying, even in spite of, you are still this. Even in spite of, you are still that. Walk in your authority. Well, God, I don't know how to walk in something that I don't believe I am. He'll work with you through that. He'll meet you right in that. The next person I want to talk about is probably a fan favorite, Moses. Everybody loved him some Moses. I get it. I love Moses too. I understand, you know what I'm saying, how Moses got kind of fed up at the end with the Israelites. Okay, I'm getting off topic. That's a story for another day because Nobody want to hear people complaining all day long. Anyways, when God called Moses child, and he told Moses that you're basically going to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses started running down a list of his issues why it disqualified him. Lord, I can't speak well. God, first he was understanding, like, still trying to assure him. After a while, God, like, didn't I not create you? You don't think I know how you speak if I'm the one that created you? Like, please, I don't want to hear that. You say you can't speak. I told you your brother gonna go with you. He gonna speak for you. You steady running down excuses. God didn't look at what Moses felt like a setback and think that would disqualify him. No, but God used him to speak to nations. It's crazy because the thing that you're most insecure about is probably the thing that God want to use to reach other people. I sympathize with Moses because here I go again, being too transparent. I got a list. You can hear it with the S's and I know you just heard it then. I never felt adequate enough to speak. But here it is. Not only God, not only do God have me um a host over a podcast, but I'm also speaking at my first women's conference. The other day, I'm just at awe. I'm like, Lord, never. This is something I always wanted the desire to do, but I didn't feel like I was capable of doing it because I looked at my speech as something that held me back from actually doing it. But God is He's so gracious and so merciful, and when you understand that the things that he has called you to do, you're not doing it out of your own strength, but you're doing it in him. He goes before you. He sets the table before you. Then you learn to walk in it with a bit more confidence, even knowing that, okay, if this don't happen, if this is not what you call me to, and these doors shut, I understand. I trust you more than I trust the gift that you've given me. I want to walk in it. I want to, be fruitful from my gift, but I love you more. Like, tell me and I'll go. Okay? Don't get me started on it. The last one is Jeremiah. Come on. Yes. Jeremiah. Child Jeremiah, they call him the weeping prophet. But after I read Jeremiah, I sympathized with him. I would have been crying too. It was a lot going on. People, not only is he giving these, wait, let's back up before we get into the heaviest truth. Remind you, Jeremiah is a child, not a 13, 14-year old. I think he was like 8. Yeah, girl, he was young. And he will always say, I'm too young. But he thought he was too young. He was just nervous, like, emotional about it. Not only emotional about how people would respond to him, but the prophecies that God was giving him was not no little small, rinky-dink, cute prophecy. They was heavy. He had to rebuke elders. And everybody know, because all of us grew up, where when we try to tell grown people something, they tell us to stay in a child's place. And I felt like that's the energy they was giving Jeremiah. You know what I'm saying? But God told him, do not say, I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to. Do not say, I am too young. Do not say, I am too young. The thing that he felt disqualified for him from, God said, don't you say that. Don't you say that. You must go to everyone I send you to. I don't care how young you are. If you love me, you will obey me. There's so many other people in the Bible that we can bring up, we can discuss and look at their lives and see how much of their doubt played into the fear of what God called them to do. But I think it's in that surrendering where they went anyways, and God used them mightily. Each of them had a thought about themselves that just didn't match what God saw. Like how they saw themselves, God saw something completely different. But I also think that's through relationship and trust and obedience, our mindsets are truly transformed because then we start to learn the way in which God sees us, how He has called us, how He talks to us. Before we close out this, and I pray that this it puts a lot of things in perspective. And I wish I could go deeper, and I may do a part two to this episode because I really want to talk about the mind. It has the power to really shape our reality, whether that's keep you bound or in prison or set you free. It definitely has the power to do so. But I want to leave you with this. I saw this story about elephants in captivity, and you may know this story, but I want to tell it to the people that don't know. There was a story about elephants in captivity. When they were young, they were tied to a post with a strong rope, and at that size, they're not strong enough to break free, so they stop trying. But even when they grow up, powerful enough to break the rope, they still stay. Not because they're bound, but because they believe they are. Some of us are like the elephant, for real. We've grown, we're stronger, we've been set free, but our mind is still tied to what we used to believe. I love that elephant story because it reminds us, like, sometimes in a way of which we was raised, we were taught to believe a certain thing or a certain way of living. But and as we get older, we still try to use the excuse, I was raised this way, I was raised that way, but you're stronger, you're better, you're different. You see the world in a different type of way. You have way more access to a lot more things than our parents have access to. So let's not live on that excuse of that's how I was raised, but actually break free from it. And hear me when I say breaking free, you will be looked at like, from people that was raised the same as you. They'll be you'll be looked at like maybe you're doing too much, or maybe you don't know they may feel like you don't know what you're doing. Honestly, you maybe don't. If you're the first one doing something you don't, there is a sense of not knowing, but there's also a sense of knowing the promises God gave me, and I can't live or be bound to the things that our family decided to be lived and bound by. I want to be set free. And if that caused me to look rebellious in the eyes of our family, or it causes us to look like we just being careless, but we actually being intentional and we moving in a way that God called us to, I would much rather look rebellious to my family than rebellious to God. Okay? Do with that what you will. So we'll go ahead and bring it to an end for this week podcast. Again, the whole point of me talking about this is not from a place of mastering it. It's a place of I'm still working through it, and I still have to cast down and take thoughts captive to make them obedient to God. Sometimes I have to literally say out loud, Lord, this here is a strong thought some thoughts are stronger than others. I think you also want to be intentional about the thought that you're thinking, and going back to the root of it. Where did this come from? Who told me to think like this? This is not a thought from God. As my friend would say, will God talk to you that way? Will he say those things to you? I think that's a question we all should put in routine when we're going through our mind. And I encourage everybody to go look up these stories. I'm sorry. Let me Jeremiah, of course, the book of Jeremiah. He has his own book. Moses, he's in Exodus. I believe he started Exodus 4. Girl, my mic went dead, child. All right, so let's go ahead and bring this week to an end. Thank you guys so much for sitting around listening to this week's episode. I pray that it blessed you in a mighty way. And I pray, if nothing else, you become more intentional with what thoughts you allow to linger in your mind. Until next time, remember, child, we are saved, we are whole, but we are still unfinished, and that's a good place to be. Follow us on Instagram at the Unfinished Podcast. Love you. Until next time.